My name is Ronak Vyas and this video is a collaboration with Programming Knowledge. In the previous video, we actually set up our ToDo repository and we saw how that happened. We set up our ToDo repository with the help of the CRUD repository, which is given by Java Spring Framework.data.repository.CRUD repository. We also added the ID annotation to our ID for the to-do entity. And one thing which we forgot to do in the previous video is that we need to tell Spring Data JPA that this to-do class is an entity, so that it can be mapped to the CRUD repository for all the function calls. So all you have to do is give it an entity annotation, and we'll just import this now. One thing which we missed in the previous video, and I think we have covered that now, so that's nice. Yeah, so in this video we'll actually finish creating our integrating the database, the Apache Derby database with our application, and then run it on Postman and see whether we can actually do some post requests, some get requests, some update requests, and delete requests. So this is going to be what the video is going to be about. So first, all we need to do is that we need to make sure that we have the repository ready. So we have the repository ready and the to-do entity is also ready. So let's close these, and no changes in the controller. The controller is going to be the same, no changes, and all we have to do is work with the to-do service. So let's get rid of our list now, or get rid of our database now. And yeah, now the first thing which we need to do is we need to add a dependency, which is the to-do repository. So we need to auto wire it. So auto wired and private to-do repository, yeah. So let's import auto wired. Great. So we have our to-do repository here, and let's see how we can work with this, or how we can actually use this. So the first is get all to-dos. So now to get all to-dos, we need to actually return a list of to-dos, right? So first let's make a list of to-dos. So list of to-dos, so to-dos equal to new array list. And yeah, we have created our list of to-dos. So now let's actually query our repository and see how we can actually use the repository to implement the get all to-dos function. So let's see what a to-do repository gives us. So to-do repository dot, and as you can see we have a bunch of methods here. So we have count, delete all, exist, find all. I think find all basically says returns all instances of the type to do here. So I think find all works the best for our application here. So we'll do find all, and now that we have all that, let's add them to the to-do list. So for that we'll just use a simple function call again. So dot for each, and here we'll be using a different kind of Java syntax, which is to-dos : add. So this basically says that add for each to-do which you find in find all, add them to the to-dos list. So in this way we have filled up our to-dos list, and all you have to do now is return to-dos. And yep, it's that simple. So all we had to do was call the function find all. So we haven't even implemented find all. So as you can see inside our repository, let me just get the one inside our project, my bad. So to-do service is here, to-do repository. Yeah, so we haven't even implemented any of these interfaces. We automatically get the implementation from Hibernate, and we use them with the Derby database. Great. Let's see how if we can do something, if we can find something similar for get a single to-do by ID. So return to-do repository dot, and as you can see we got the first one as find one. So find one basically says retrieves an entity by its ID. So that's exactly what you want, since we have the ID as the parameter. So all you have to do is find one, and the ID, and that's it. That's how we just return the to-do which we get by the ID. And similarly, as you can see, we have a similar way of doing this for all the to-do repository function calls. So again, let's return. Oh, sorry, we don't have to return anything here. We'll just do to-do repository dot, not dot count, sorry, dot. And as you can see, let's try to find the one which we need. So we need a save. So the save basically saves it to the database. So we'll do save, and the entity is to-do. And that is how we create a to-do. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward, nothing complicated. And yeah, just make sure that I haven't covered all the edge cases here. So this is still prone to breaking. The API still breaks. So if you don't pass in a specific value or something, we just get thrown an error. We haven't handled exceptions yet, but we will do that in the future videos when we actually have an external database included in our application. So until then, we will be working with simple functions and assume that all the API calls will be syntactically right. So yeah, don't worry about that. Okay, great. So next is update to do. So as you can see in the previous implementation, we used this in a very tedious way. So we do through all of them, then we get the one which we want, then we check the ID, and then we update it. So instead of all of this, a very simple thing to do here is just to copy this one and paste it here. So this can be done in multiple ways, but this is the way which I found very easy to do when I looked up online on YouTube and other blogs. So basically, the save methods creates the entity and also overrides it. So when you pass in your to-do with the update, all it does is it automatically overrides your update and overrides the to-do object which you have in the database with the new one which you already assigned. So that's all you have to do to update your to-do list or to-do task in your to-do list database. The next thing which we have is delete. So again, pretty similar. To-do repository dot delete and delete by ID. And that's it. So that's all we had to do to actually use the to-do repository and change the implementation so that this actually is being stored in a database and not an array list like we did before. So just to reiterate on the changes which we made for the database, we went to do service. So yeah, we have the import is never used. Which one? So yeah, so oh my bad. Yeah, we don't need it if it's never used. Great. So now let's begin from the beginning. So first we made some changes to our entity. So we added the entity annotation so that Java X persistence or the database or the JDBC or JPA knows that we are actually using this particular class as our entity, which will be used for ORM, object relational mapping. The next thing which we did was create a new class or a new interface, which is ToDo Repository, which extends from ToDo Repository, which handles all of your hidden implementations for find one, find all, save, and delete. And it takes in two parameters to confirm. One is the to-do object, the entity which we have here, and the unique ID or the primary key of our entity, which is ID and integer. The next thing which we did was make some changes to our to-do service. So we added a dependency for ToDo repository using AutoWire. Next, we made the changes inside our methods to make sure that we use the ToDo repository function calls. And as you can see, it's very easy to read, very readable. Get to do is basically find one, get all is find all, create a save, update is also save because it overrides it and also creates it, and delete is by delete. So now that we have finished making our simple REST API with Apache Derby as a database, let's run this and see this in action. So let's go here and run our application. So here, as you can see in the console, you'll see the database changes happening and how Spring is working at runtime to give you the Apache Derby function mechanism. So as you can see, building JPA container entity manager, Hibernate is being used behind the scenes for the implementation. schema SL does not exist, so it's using automatically Derby, and we have started to do list on 8080. Great. So let's post something first. 8080 will post ID task1 summary and hit send. And we get nothing in return, but the status is 200. Okay, so we have made it. Let's get and see whether it's did we actually make that one or not. So we do a get, and as you can see, we got our first one ready. Let's do another post. So let's do another one. So 2 2 2 and 2, and we post this now. Let's do a get to check whether this has been post. Great. Let's do a put and update it. So let's do task2 updated. Let me just do it for the rest. And let's do a send. Okay, now let's go to delete, and let's delete the one which you want. So let's delete 2 and hit send. Great. So, and we do a get again. So get for /todos, hit send, and we just have 1. So this is how we implement a ToDo repository or a Spring Data JPA repository, and we use that with Apache Derby to actually implement the functions that we have here, which is find one, find all, save, and delete. In the next video, we'll actually use MySQL now, an external database, and see how we can store it, how we can use it, how the ToDo repository changes, and all of that. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.